Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
That's basically the Cincinnati Bengals for the 2024 season. Welcome, everybody, to That Helps No One FantasyCast on Area 51 Network, Sports Network. We're going to call it whatever we want. We're going to call it Sports Network because we're talking about sports. We're not talking about practice. We're talking about sports. Welcome, everybody. Joined to my my fantasy football screen right, Matt, a.k.a. the Wise One. He of all the names. We've got a returning one of the OGs of the show. We got Steve Fisher. Big fan of his Baltimore Ravens this past week, obviously. Good time. So it was very fitting.
Fantasy.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And then Mr. Teddy Wong. He wanted to prove that he's all heart, so he did this twice. Welcome back to the show. He's so heart. It's funny. It came from a place of love.
Great 80s all-female band.
Yeah, exactly. Boys, welcome to the show. How did everybody's fantasy weeks go? For football, I mean. I don't care about your home life.
Another win, 4-1.
Hey, good for you. Way to go.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think you beat me pretty badly in one league, Ryan, and then I think I stacked you up in the other, so it's just a complete wash, like the whole, just basically like that Atlanta-Tampa Bay game.
Are we going there again? I was so mad because like Lamar's just going off in that game, and I'm like, yes. But then it was just absolute duds everywhere else. So I was very happy to win in one of the leagues. I would have preferred to win in that one over the whistleblowers, but whatever. And Steve, how did things go for you this week?
I got 1 4-1 team now, and I got 2 2-3 teams.
That's okay.
My 4-1 team is my work league, where just a 1 year, 1 draft kind of thing. And my other 2 are keeper leagues, and I had a cumulative number of 4 picks within the first 5 rounds of both leagues combined. So,
wow,
the hopes aren't too high, and every win I get in either of those leagues is just gravy. So, if I make the playoffs, awesome. If I don't, good pick. It's kind of a refreshing year, Like last year, I had that kind of meltdown after the finals, losing to our buddy Kyle. And this year,
no one likes to lose to Kyle either.
No one likes it. You know what? He's the best person I've ever lost in fantasy sports to. He sent me a very wonderful card. Like, I've never gotten a card from somebody that says, like, hey, I mean, it was kind of smack talking, but he sent me this little card. It was and a bomber of beer. So, best person I've ever lost to in fantasy football.
Yeah, it's he's a tough guy to hate. I mean, he makes you want to hate him a lot, but you just can't do it, which is really, really tough.
I tell stories about Kyle all the time, right? My favorite story of Kyle, and this is totally side tangent, but I think Ted was there also. We went to go watch Anchorman 2 in the theaters.
This is great. Yeah.
And this is our buddy Kyle's motto, basically. He lives by the motto of, you never know until you ask. And so we had this random guy sitting beside our group, and he keeps getting up in the middle of the previews and keeps interrupting us probably about 5 or 6 times later.
Which is a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot, right? Kyle looks at him, doesn't get angry about it. He just looks at him and says, I'll take a Dr. Pepper. And like, we're giggling away, and yeah, whatever, buddy. And the guy comes back with a large Dr. Pepper and says, sorry for like getting in your way so many times. And I'm like, only Kyle would get a free Dr. Pepper by just saying, I'll take a Dr. Pepper. So shout out to Kyle.
Wow. Shout out to Kyle.
Shout out to Kyle. Speaking of shouting out, I'd like to shout out our fan base, our listeners, our viewers. Come ask us a question. We're already going into week 6, so you got to have some problems going on. I know I do in one of my leagues. So, come ask the other 3 guys. I'm here for more of the comedy relief. But ask the guys a question. We're, as a group, we're likely to come up with a good answer. Feel free to come on by or just hang out, because I mean, we're pretty cool, so you could by proxy be cool also. Make sure you follow our Twitter and our YouTube, as well as all the Area 51 socials as well, so we can grow this show, be the bestest fantasy football show on Tuesday nights in Canada. Just saying. I did some research. You guys saw my tweet, Matt. I don't know what your Twitter is, or if you're even doing the Twitter, so I just put you as Matt, and hopefully you see it at some point through someone else. Every team that has Tyreek Hill this year, if you were to look, what do you think their records are?
2-3.
Yeah, I'm gonna say like 1-4.
Almost everyone, aside from I think 2, and I got 10, which is tough because nobody seems to answer me. But almost everybody was 1-4, and there was like 2 that were 2-3. Now, is this part like? And I didn't really get answers for all of these, whether they're like keeper leagues or whether they were just 1-year drafts. I mean, Tyreek would likely go 1-2, right? Providing we assumed McCaffrey was healthy to start the season.
Well,
no?
I wouldn't.
Maybe not, but anytime.
Okay, 1, 2, or 3, maybe.
Yeah, anytime you're blowing, anytime a first round pick doesn't work out for you, especially if it's an earlier first round pick, that's going to that's going to be a sign for just huge struggles.
Yeah, but like of a specific player, like I mean, we're not talking about Justin Jefferson, we're not talking about McCaffrey. Like I'm doing okay with him, but interesting to see that almost all the teams that I was able to get answers from and looked for just absolutely losing seasons so far. Just interesting. I don't know what to do with that information, but it's out there.
It's more like validation, I think, for you. Right?
Yeah, you should do the same and ask about McCaffrey.
Well,
See if it's just a Tyreek thing, or if it's just coincidence.
I didn't have enough time. I put all my eggs.
You have something for next week.
Yeah, I put all my eggs in one basket for that.
The difference between a McCaffrey thing, though, and the Tyreek thing is that there is a direct replacement for a McCaffrey. And it might not be a 1-to-1, but at least you can continue to help your offense. If you lose a Tyreek, I mean, good luck replacing a number 1 receiver that does what he does, right?
Exactly. Tough. Yeah, well, that's fair. Yeah, I was thinking about McCaffrey too. I'm like, oh, don't have enough time to do this one. But I don't know. Let's go recap of last week. So Mahomes, this isn't really a recap, but 337 yards, I think. No touchdowns. Thankfully, he did that with you, Ted, so I was able to win in that one league. I assumed I was going to get a 30 burger or something on me. It didn't happen. Very thankful. Kareem Hunt,
30
like unreal, and a pick too, right? So, yeah. I mean, imagine you're throwing that many yards and you still win, and yet you're not the entire reason. So anyway, Kareem Hunt is back. So that's interesting.
Wait a second. Do you know of one quarterback in the NFL who did throw for over 300 yards, no picks, and 3 touchdowns?
He's on another team, unfortunately, that I lost with, but I believe his name is Lamar Jackson.
Nope. Lamar. What? Well,
or
I'm
LV3.
talking about somebody who really kind of shocked the fantasy world. And maybe if you tuned into week, what is this, week 6?
The elite one? Did
somebody Joseph Flacco would be a lock to get some mega points?
Yeah, you said book him for 20, I think, right? I mean, I think almost all of our starts worked out this week. It looked pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure McLaurin went off for 10 points.
Well, Hunt and Flacco look good. How about that?
Yeah, that's good enough for me.
I can remember who you took, Matt.
Well, who had Juju?
I took Juju.
Yeah, that worked out okay. Like, what happened this week, honestly?
130 and no score for Juju. Yeah, that's a pretty good week.
Man, I'm getting absolutely roasted with my camera right now. This is fun.
You know what? I blame Bill Belichick for what Andy Reid does. Like, he's just the exact same person. Right when we think we know who the replacement is going to be, we're all guessing on it. One of us had to be right. The other ones were going to be wrong for sure. And for the longest time, it looked like it was like, oh, I'm just going to like pass my running backs the whole time. Like I'm going to use Kelsey like I used to use Kelsey. And then I'm going to use a slew of like 4 tight ends at one point. And then
Jody Fortson's back. Did we all not know this?
He's such a he's such a Bellatrix type of person, and it drives me up the wall. Only for fantasy football. Real football, it's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, and you know Juju's going to have 1 catch for 9 yards next game.
Oh my gosh, people are going to just be throwing the kitchens. If you have any fab bucks left, don't fall into this trick. He's going to he might not even get 50% of the snap share next week. That's how unpredictable that kind of thing could be. So,
Who do they have after the bye?
no idea. Haven't looked.
This is a football show. You guys don't even know that. Let's talk.
The San Francisco 49ers.
Oh, that's going to be a fun one.
They're on the
That's
road.
going to be a fun one. Ted, you brought this up in the group text there. Apparently, Bo Nix is a very quiet quarterback. Is this right? I don't know what to do with that either.
That's great.
So,
Yeah, I don't know if anybody's seen it. So basically, it's just during the game, and he's calling his plays at the line, and Max Crosby stands up and leans over the line, and just starts screaming at him, "Speak up! We can't hear you!" Just so good. Just Crosby just trolling him. I love it. Yeah,
I didn't see that. That's so funny. I'm gonna have to look at a clip of that.
Um,
Poor Bo Nix. Not only is he getting screamed at by defenders, he gets to the sideline, starts having it out with Sean Payton, and then in the media, Sean Payton calls him Bueller. Oh, this guy's got a little Bueller in him. Yeah, but it's my love language to say stuff like that. What?
He probably put a bounty on him. And that's why Max Crosby's like, you need to speak up because I got money riding on this next sack.
Yeah. Poor Bo Nix.
The Bueller bounty.
Yeah. So Max Crosby, did you see was it a tweet or Instagram this week when they were talking about Devontae Adams wanting out of Vegas and basically talking about a package deal? Do you see this?
No,
I didn't see the package deal thing. I did hear about. Obviously, we all heard about Adams wanting out of Vegas, or the possibility of Adams requesting a trade to get out of Vegas. Yeah.
So I guess I got to find it, and it's probably going to be something I'll have to retweet later. But they're apparently, Max Crosby's he's might have to say, I can't remember what the wording was, but basically this might be a package deal, which is super, super sucky if you're a Raiders fan, because you're going to lose a guy that's disgruntled. And I mean, it's really not working out well there, but to lose a guy like Max Crosby because he sees some writing on the wall, that's not good. That's not good at all.
I mean, if you're ever going to trade Max Crosby away, you're never going to get more value out of him than the current Max Crosby right now. 27 years old, is probably in the running for Defensive Player of the Year. Yeah. I don't know what his contract is but I can't see that being a horrible thing if they're actually going to fully retool this whole thing.
2026 it expires. 94 Schmilly, 53 guaranteed. So, I mean,
it's not that bad.
He's doing okay. He's probably can afford to leave and be okay. And you could probably go to a team that probably wouldn't mind spending a few draft picks to help out their defense to go on a championship run. I mean, pretty decent player to add if you're in the mix. Let alone you probably get a receiver out of the deal too, unless it's a 3-way kind of trade or something.
I don't know if it's in the agenda, but did you hear that the Browns are still going to let Watson play?
Yes. Yes. His QB ratings in the last 4 weeks are didn't he have a couple under 10?
I know the contract sits there and you got to eat crow. But my goodness, give those long-suffering fans something to be happy about. Obviously Ted can speak to this, but when most of your fan base is perfectly okay losing because it means Deshaun is losing, that should be telling. That should be telling enough that this dude needs to go, and you admit your mistake and at least do the right thing.
He gets sacked frequently. I think he's leading the league in sacks now, and not in the good way. Just constantly getting beat up on. The crazy thing is he's not even the worst player, which is crazy. But you can't just be adequate or a QB that you could win with, because they could win with that. But the whole team is just playing so garbage right now, and I don't know how you'd want to play, as a teammate to a guy like that. I just, you're right. When the fans are okay with the Browns losing because Watson is losing, I think that myself and many other people feel that way. I know that there's diehard Brownies out there that want them to win no matter what and can always look past that stuff, but you can't be just average and then also be a super shitty human being and then also get paid the most in the league. It's just a recipe for disaster, and it's kind of panning out that way right now. And I'm not really sure what anybody expected.
Like, are they going to ride that out literally the whole season?
I don't think so. So it's not as easy as Stefanski just benching him, right, and putting in Jameis, right? It's like that's a huge decision that probably involves multiple people all the way up to ownership, I would suspect, to bench a guy like Watson because of the fallout that would come from it. But I mean, that's right. It's a dollar thing too that they have to eat crow a little bit on. And I don't really see end in sight. I think the only thing that could happen is if the league steps in and ultimately suspends Watson for the other lawsuit now that he has going on, which is just ridiculous. Like, how many more? So
1 a month. I think that's his quota.
I think it's more than that actually, if you do the math. But yeah.
So the problem with like benching him, and I know there's like the idea of, doubling down on your mistakes is never the way to go. But when you're so cap strung on a guy like that, like right now he's making 11% of his team's cap hit, 28 million. That's fairly reasonable. If you cut him, it's 200 million in dead money. The most I think I've ever heard of. Next year, 73 million in cap hit. He's going to be making 27% of his team's money, still 172 in dead money. And then 2026, he's still making 73 million, 25% cap hit because the cap's going up. But even in 2026, the Browns are still looking at $100 million in dead money. So when you have a contract structured like that, this year and next year is the classic year where they were looking to restructure it, right? It's kind of set up in that way where, you could restructure the contract, you could add some more guaranteed money on there, whatever it is. There's no way they can pay him $73 million next year, but there's no possible way that you can restructure it to lower that cap hit. So they're stuck between a rock and a hard spot here. And I am so not for Ted and not for like those diehard Browns fans, but like when you give that much money to a garbage human being, like this is karma at its finest thing. You are absolutely stuck with that contract. And it's too bad for the rest of those players because there's a lot of really solid players on that team who looked like they were going to have championship window aspirations. We're talking like the Myles Garretts of the league. And now they're playing again on what seems to feel like the old Browns team because of one person. So like, I don't know what you do. You're screwed either way.
Steve's right. So the contract is designed in a way that it's meant for restructure. But if you never get to restructure, there's no way from out from underneath it. It can't be buried. You can't cut it. It's not dead money. It's untradeable. All you can do.
Is there a clause though? Like if he gets convicted on any of these charges, can they get out of this contract?
So I read a huge article on this last week. So any charges that are existing that they know about that are all taken into account, whether there's a lawsuit or like a lawsuit pending or it's been resolved or not, he can't be suspended for any of those or contract terminated for any of those ones. So you knew it. You knew that he had whatever 30 charges. You knew that he did all these things. It's fine. Water under the bridge. If anything comes from these, you gotta leave it and eat it the way it is because you knew. If anything new comes out that wasn't discussed when it comes to allegations for the massage stuff, then they have the right to terminate the contract. The difference between this latest contract this latest lawsuit and the previous one is that it's not massage related, that it's like date related and there's other things. So it might be different in the wording based on what they initially thought could have been like a termination style contract. So that's still coming. I think that's pending still. And I don't know. I mean, I think I would just prefer to be out of the league, honestly, but the Browns could be on the hook for this, even though he did something wrong. which he didn't discuss with the team and didn't work into his contract. So there is a way out, but who knows if it'll get to that point or not.
I mean, you're hoping, but I mean, you're hoping like, wow, we really screwed ourselves on this one. Now it's like, well, hopefully there's a silver lining on the other end. Like, hopefully something comes of this, and then we don't look like as big of an idiot.
But they do. They're going to look like an idiot no matter what. Yeah.
It's going to get so messy because best case scenario is, like Ted said, well, this is best case scenario for the organization story, is that this new charge comes about and somehow their legal team can say, we had zero understanding of this. But you can guarantee that there are going to be so many other legal teams looking into it saying,
and the NFLPA.
Yeah, negligence doesn't make you absolved of different things, right? Like if you just didn't do your due diligence and this had happened before,
that's on you.
That's on you for not looking into those things. So man, could that get messy.
The diligence thing is like that's where the contract comes into place, because you can only do your due diligence, but if something happens in secret, they're saying you had to be honest and upfront with us about everything. If something was left unturned, then you're going to be strung up for that. It's just whether or not it's sounding like whether or not it was the correct crime or not, which is ridiculous.
Wow.
And I think that's where the fight comes from. But
let's talk about a different name.
What is your name?
My name is. My name is. My name is.
You know my. It doesn't matter what your.
It's good. We're not canceled yet, so that's great. You guys remember the name. We're going to do 2 names, I think is fair. We had a good little legal talk before this, so 2 seems like a fair amount. Ted, we're going to let you start this week. What do you got for your first name? By the way, this segment, I'm just going to say it. Thank you, Matt, for making it as famous as it is. But this is a great segment. Just wanted to bring that up there.
Do you guys remember Joe Horn?
Sure do.
That's the guy that played for the Steelers, and there's that Coke commercial.
Yeah, Joe Horn, 2012 first team All-Star, 3 All-Pros, 5 Pro Bowls.
Wow.
I believe he's the all-time receiving leader for the New Orleans Saints. He's in the New Orleans Saints Hall of Fame. Played for what felt like forever. J.C. Horn, his son, is now in the league. So you got NFL bloodlines there, but like I remember him as like one of the classiest, most like fun receivers to watch back in the day, because it seemed like he was always open, and he was always open the same way he was when he started his career, all the way up until the end. But moves, consummate professional, and just what an absolute tactician. Great player to watch, Joe Horn.
And one of the greatest sellies of all time with the cell phone in the in the padding of the upright.
Those are better times with
They
T.O. and the cell phone.
Yeah, every week was a $35,000 fine for a bunch of guys being dudes.
Oh man.
Was that the first time the No Fun League like kind of really started to be coined as NFL No Fun League?
Yeah, I think it was like T.O. popcorn cheerleader kind of era where they were like doing props and writing on their t-shirts. And
Chad Johnson at the time, Chad Johnson with the Hall of Fame jacket, or paying the ref, or pay the ref. The Randy Moss one, I think, was one of the best ones. The mooning.
I mean, Moss's were better than Ocho's, just because it was so like there was just such this like level of arrogance that you just couldn't ignore, because he was just so damn good. And Ocho's were great, and there was a lot of thought put in them, but it was like kind of gimmicky from time to time.
Oh, and he told everybody too it was going to be gimmicky, but yeah. I still remember that was it Joe Buck that called that Monday Night Football when he did the moon, and he's like, "This,
it's disgusting."
Oh yeah.
And I'm sitting there, I'm like, "This is the best troll ever." Even Packers fans like, "That's good, that's good."
So sorry, 4 Pro Bowls, 4 Pro Bowls, 2000, 2002, 2004, 603 receptions, 8,744 receiving yards, and 58 touchdowns for
Good
New Orleans
career.
Saints Hall of Fame. What a beauty.
Wow. Steve?
I'm going to go with a less prolific person from that kind of time era. A first round pick, 11th overall. This individual played for 3 different teams. Most notable for looking like he basically was, drinking beers and chuffing darts on the sideline before he would be tossing bombs. We're talking about Jay Cutler.
Yes.
Only one Pro Bowl, had a losing record upon leaving. Do you remember Jay Cutler more for being a Denver quarterback or a Chicago quarterback?
Chicago.
Oh, Denver.
Denver, myself.
See, I was going to say Chicago.
Yeah, Chicago.
I remember Jay Cutler for,
He was in the league.
I'll maintain this. I feel like I don't know where you guys would put Jay Cutler's arm talent all time in the league. I'm not talking about the quarterback or how good his career was, but how good he actually physically could have been. It was just amazing.
Yeah.
Like when he came out and said like, "Oh, I got a better arm than John Elway." He might have had a better arm than John Elway. Like that good. He had the ability to be that good.
He had tools. I picked him because I was like, okay, I remember him getting, I'm pretty sure his one and only Pro Bowl was with Denver, but I always remember him as a Chicago quarterback. And I was like, oh, wonder what the guys would think. And oddly enough, he's that forgettable that half of us think Denver and half of us think Chicago. Smoking Jay Cutler as my first name.
And a 4-time Mr. Olympia after his career, too.
What? Really?
Yeah.
No kidding.
Jay Cutler.
Apparently Matt picked this guy and not me because he knows all the fun facts.
Wow.
If you look up Jay Cutler, you're going to get something a little different than that. But yeah.
So I had to dig deep on this one. I couldn't find any highlights. Definitely no fantasy stats for him. I'm going to go with a well-known tight end from the late 80s, Cap Boso. I don't know if you guys have even heard of this guy or whether he even is a human being or not. I can prove that he is. He played for the St. Louis Cardinals and the Chicago Bears. He was selected by the Steelers in '86 in the 8th round. A lot of knee injuries. Most of his time was with the Bears, but like I said, knee injuries. He retired and he had, what does he say? It later filed a lawsuit and won the right to receive $353 a week in disability pay for the rest of his life. Tight end, kind of a weird thing to, I don't know, I guess.
A real Bobby Vanilla contract there for $353 a week.
He's pulling in some heavy, I don't know what he's doing now, but solid tight end, 6'4". Ted, are we going to say that that's tall?
I mean, not when you're talking about the tallest, but yeah, that's tall.
So Cap Boso is my first pick. Matthew?
So mine are the two first jerseys I ever bought with my own money.
And I tried finding out and I got it wrong. So I'm really hoping you lied to me.
So for all the listeners, the first jersey I had was Jerry Rice jersey my mom brought me back from. Actually, it was Petaluma, not San Francisco, but she brought that back. So that's pretty good first go. But I was in grade 9, grade 8, grade 9, something like that. And Sport Check always had their sweet rack of discounted jerseys for traded players or whatever it was. And I started my NFL watching as picking between the Broncos and the Vikings. But the Broncos won that year, so I picked the Vikings to avoid the bandwagon. And I thought it would be fitting for my first Broncos jersey to have a Jake the Snake Plumber jersey. So maybe more known for his days in Arizona, but yeah, just also just super okay quarterback. You kind of live with Jay Cutler in that zone. A couple highlights here and there. Not a professional bodybuilder after, but
what's his claim to fame? Is like fingering the crowd at a game because they were booing him. I can't remember or something.
I don't know what he did in the crowd, but
and then he grew like a huge mountain man beard and became a person of the woods.
Good for him.
Or something.
You know that he made a Pro Bowl?
Yeah.
Jake Plummer.
Yeah, he had a couple of good seasons.
You know what? 2005, Denver gets a Pro Bowl quarterback who would later become very not memorable. 2000, whatever I said with Jay Cutler, they would have a Pro Bowl quarterback who would basically like be forgotten about. They're maybe Bo Nix is next. Maybe that's what he means by Buellering.
What was that? I can't hear you. Speak up a little bit.
Man, that's good. That's good. Does I just want to get this out there. Is anybody going to pick Rex Grossman at some point, or have we picked him at all?
Poor Rex Grossman.
I'm just we're bringing up that era of forgotten
Of Bears Broncos quarterbacks.
Yeah, so I just figured we might as well add to it. Ted, you can fire off for your second one.
Okay, so my next guy was one of those classic DN / linebacker guys that kind of got moved around from season to season depending on what their contract looked like. Steve, I know you know all about these types of players because of Mr. Suggs. But yeah, put together a first team All Pro, 3 second team All Pros, 5 Pro Bowls. 364 total tackles, 100.5 sacks, 22 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, and an interception. Spent 10 years playing for the Miami Dolphins and 1 for the Tennessee Titans. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Cam Wake.
Cam Wake.
He was okay. Sacked Tom Brady on Monday Night Football.
So crazy that the Dolphins were able to go from guys like Jason Taylor and move right into a player like Cam Wake and MVP level defensive ends that just like wreaked havoc on the league for 20 years or so. So yeah, pretty cool player, pretty great story. Obviously spent some time in the CFL. But yeah, did nasty business in the league for a long time. He's a fun player to watch.
The richest CFL to NFL contract ever. He signed
it was
$4 million over, something like that to start, and then got paid after that.
Yeah, the year he had in BC was crazy. I know Ryan, you and I were working there at the time. Matt, you and I too.
He came into my shop a few times. Mountain of a man, nicest dude.
Yeah, 16 sacks in his first year, 23 sacks in his next year in 2008. So if you put them together, that's 130 professional football sacks.
He did a lot of damage against Montreal, from what I remember. He had 6 sacks a game against Montreal. It was a good time.
Jeez.
Like to the point where you're like, well, you kind of, I just remember, I mean, again, these are CFL days, but you kind of just call, you're like, how many is he going to get? 4, 5, 6? And he would put up those numbers, no problem. There's a story. Did you ever hear that? Was it $20 or $100 that someone taped to the ceiling of the dressing room? And it was, I can't remember what the height of the ceiling was. And he was the only guy jumped up and swiped it down off the ceiling. And it's like, all right, this dude, I remember he blocked a field goal one time, just swatted down with both hands. And you're like, okay, this dude's for real. He was unreal.
Yeah, crazy good player.
Steve, who's your second guy?
Well, I'm glad you didn't end up inadvertently stealing my next very okayest quarterback from that era with your big loud mouth. But this guy, also another fun nickname, if you remember Uncle Rico.
Ooh.
Remember who I'm talking about? Played for 9 years. The reason why I picked him is because I remember he started out in Chicago, and when he went to Denver, that's when Jay Cutler went to Chicago. So they swapped. Very averaging quarterbacks, although he would have a winning record at the end of his career. 4th round pick, Kyle Orton.
Oh, yes.
Uncle Rico.
Yes. Dave Grohl.
Yeah. Very, very similar traits to Dave Grohl, minus the ability to do anything musical.
Yeah, there was like a 3-year period there, like around when he was retiring to even post retirement, wherever there was like a big injury in the league late in the season, heading towards playoffs with no real solution at quarterback. Maybe Kyle Orton deserved a phone call.
He was a rich man's Joe Flacco.
Yeah, I don't. You know what? I could pull up the stats. I don't know if Kyle Orton ever threw for 350 yards in a game. Would be shocking, but yeah.
That's good. I'm gonna go next. So there's a few guys here, but to complete what I'm trying to do this week, I'm not gonna go with 2 very awesome names like Tim Hightower or LaRod Stevens Howling. That's a blast from the past. I'm talking about the 2008 team MVP of the Arizona Cardinals, guy that definitely did a lot of damage on some fantasy teams. I'm talking about Beanie Wells. We all remember Beanie Wells. He, if you had him in fantasy football, you were doing all right. What did he have? I think he was only playing for 4 seasons, but amassed 24, just under 2,500 yards, just under 300 yards in the air. Not too bad. Now, that's his receiving touchdown. 24 rushing touchdowns, no receiving touchdowns, but I remember a lot of I'm sure I had Beanie Wells in a trade or two, but
you drafted him I remember you drafted him with like third overall or something.
No,
like that
was a different trade. that was the Ryan Williams, Daniel Thomas year when I could have had Julio and AJ Green. It didn't work out the way I thought, unfortunately. So running backs were not the way to go that year, and could have had
Ryan Matthews.
I still remember that Friday night, the preseason game when he shredded his ACL. I'm like, I remember, and Twitter was kind of new back then, and just seeing like every fantasy guy like, oh no, this is terrible. And I'm like, what's going on? I looked, I'm like, well, there go. And I think I lost Daniel Thomas like 6 weeks later into the season. I'm like, well, this is not going well. While Julio and AJ Green are just like shredding up every single defense that they faced that year. So, Beanie Wells is who I was trying to get at. So, pretty decent player.
That's hilarious that you went all in on Ryan Matthews. Like, did he ever play all 16 games?
No, that he injured himself in his rookie season in preseason, and that was it. And then the next season, I think he maybe played a game, and I think he did it to his other leg or his other knee, and like he didn't really get going for like 3 seasons. So he was just an absolute hot mess of injuries. And then again, Thomas was kind of the same thing. Didn't really pan out in Miami from what I remember. And yeah, but I was absolutely convinced because he just, I think, was he with Virginia Tech? I feel like, anyway, he was just an absolute machine out there, and absolutely fell apart. So, not talking about Ryan Williams, which still kills me, but Beanie Wells. Fire away, Matt.
Speaking of jerseys, I had a Ryan Matthews jersey custom made at Jersey City back in the day. It was dope.
I got a Chargers one.
He had 5,200 career rushing yards and 37 touchdowns. So considering what the injuries, not so bad. The second jersey, actually, I think I bought this one before the Plumber one, but big late 90s tight end guy, part-time Carolina Panthers fan. This guy had 12 touchdowns as a tight end in 1999. Wesley Walls, the black Carolina Panthers jersey with the blue, and it was fresh to death. Actually, a pretty good tight end in his day. It was kind of like the pre or just as Tony G was going, where those guys were starting to get involved in the receiving game a little bit more, and he was one of those first guys that was more of a pass catcher than a blocker. But yeah.
How did you end up with a Wes Walls jersey that wasn't a Minnesota Wild jersey?
Wesley Walls, not with a Z. Sorry, a Z. It's Walls.
Regardless,
not Wes Waltz. Yeah, get it.
Well, I don't even know what to say.
How did you even find that? Like, you went out of your way to purchase.
Say, someone had this.
No, it was at Sport Check. Same thing. It was discount rack. It was dope.
Oh, okay.
It was like $14 or something like that.
Printed, screen print on the back. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, screen printed. I think
I would love to know the buyer.
Kind of shiny.
It was a Reebok. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. I know
the glory days of those. Yeah. Real nice. I have a photo of actually somebody recently sent me a photo of me wearing it on a bus in high school.
Jeez.
Which is really what I think triggered it for me, because I don't think I've had it for about 15.
I was going to say you didn't keep
years.
it clearly. Wow.
I don't know. I don't get rid of jerseys. I generally try to keep them. This or Kellen Winslow jerseys. I get rid of those ones.
Or Deshaun Watson.
I mean, I never had that one, but yeah.
I still have my Ray Rice jersey.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. Well, I'd rather have a Ray Rice jersey than a Kellen Winslow jersey. How about that?
Fair. That's fair. Let's get into Thanostars. Let's go. Steve, you get honors today.
We were gonna. Did we not want to tell what the themes
Oh,
were?
yeah,
I
sorry.
feel like there's themes there. No,
Sorry. So Matt, yours was
Matt was pretty clear. They were both jerseys that he bought and owned.
sorry.
I couldn't
I'm
figure out.
gonna
Were both yours like old? I don't know, Ryan. I was trying to figure yours out,
hats. They were
but
hats.
hats.
Yeah, cap and beanie.
Oh God! Did you just like type in names for hats and then Google
2
search
days.
all?
For 2 days. I had the Beanie Wells one pretty quick. I'm like, there's got to be other ones. There's not. There's really not.
Good for you.
Yeah.
I'm really surprised that you were gonna like go right into Thano without like saying that, because man, you were fired up when someone figured it out. Right?
Oh, it's good. It's fun. It's fun.
Mine were I don't know if anybody got it, but Cam Wake, obviously CFL, Joe Horn, CFL, started his career out there. The cool story, he had like $2 to $3 to his name, was in a Blockbuster and saw Jerry Rice's video for $3. So he decided right then and there to invest in his future and learn from the best receiver in NFL history. Made a dig me tape a la Greg Zahn of all his highlights and sent them to every professional NFL and CFL team in the league. At that time, the CFL had expanded to the US. 1 or 2 teams called him back. One of them was the Madison Mad Dogs.
Memphis
Mad Dogs made it to the CFL, showed out, and then found himself an NFL contract. Pretty great story.
Good for him.
Man,
To invest in his future with the Jerry Rice Blockbuster tape.
probably kept. Did he have any late charge? Did he just keep it or what?
Yeah, I think he bought it. He bought
Sir,
it.
you're gonna have to pay us $60 to keep this one. It's not even worth $60. Steve, what was your combo?
Mediocre quarterbacks from Chicago.
Mediocre.
It's like I thought it was obvious.
I mean, it was pretty obvious. Like I
Yeah.
said, they swapped places. Like,
Yeah. I'll take
I
mediocre quarterbacks for 100, Steve.
Yeah, I like the Kyle
Rex
Orton one. That was
Grossman.
fun. That was fun. Okay, so we already mentioned it, so we're gonna get right into Thano. I don't remember who I said first. I'm pretty sure I said Steve. So Steve, go ahead.
I picked mine super early this week. I think it was Thursday night football game. So Drake London gets hurt on the play before. Sorry, London owners. We already knew it wasn't going to help you. But then maybe you thought Bijan owners might get a little taste of the end zone. Not at all. Even the great Darnell Mooney, who absolutely went off, maybe only because I'm playing him this week. Couldn't have been him either. It also couldn't have been Ray McLeod because I started Ray McLeod this week. So who got the OT winner in Thursday night football? How about a one Kaderol Hodge, who comes in literally the play because of the London injury. Really cool post-game kind of interview. He's crying. He's got his shot. It was pretty cool. But I'm sorry, Kaderol, you helped absolutely nobody this week.
Mooney moving. That's fired. That's caught. And that is Hodge. And Hodge is going to take it to the end zone. A most improbable win for the Atlanta Falcons.
Even Michael's like,
cool.
he's not on my list. I don't have him.
You get Kaderol Hodge
Just
right after you drop a Mooney moving.
So it's so cool to see, Kirk Cousins get a big win there. Obviously his teammates knew what that meant to him in the moment. I mean, they won an overtime game, but I don't know how many like big dog piles I've seen in football. They obviously knew it meant a lot to him. He's crying in the post-game interview. Good for Kaderol Hodge. But,
yeah, he's like a team guy too, right? Because he's been on a lot of rosters as the final receiver, special teams player. He spent, I don't know, like I want to say 3 or 4 years in Cleveland over a bunch of years. Because when he scored that TD, Twitter blew up with a bunch of former Browns players shouting his praises, right? Like just absolutely stoked for the guy. So that's cool, man. That's good stuff.
Maddie, who you got?
I don't know if this is allowed in the rules because I'm the new guy still. But one of the Thanos stars last week was Jeremy McNichols. And despite him having a great game, he's still only rostered in 3% and started in less than 1%. And he went out and scored a touchdown again. So you guys can slap me on the wrist if back-to-back Thanos stars is a thing. And at what point do they become, no longer eligible?
Well, if he's still 3% for the rest of the season, you could probably keep showing up with that one.
I didn't actually go back into the docs, but when I saw you write that down, it triggered all of the players that I've picked as Thanos stars that, maybe it's just because I didn't know them, or like the one that really came to mind was Rashid Shaheed. I feel like I picked him twice in his rookie year, didn't know a lot about him, and now he's like a viable fantasy football person. So it's really interesting how those guys, they'll just keep showing up and you're like, do you,
there might be something to this.
Thanos star? Like, are you going to win the most Thanod person of all time?
It's an award. We might have to make it an award.
Anyway,
here's a clip.
And they will hand it off. It is McNichols to the goal line. Touchdown.
Impressive. Really, really impressive. Ted, fire away.
So my Thano, not only do you get a Thano approved stat line with a 3-yard TD and his only rushing attempt during the game, but it's also another fullback. So I get to go fullback back to back, which is kind of fun. But he also made a key, and this is important, but he also made a key fumble recovery early in the game. And that thwarted the Pats DST for anyone that started them hoping to get some cheap recovery points. So he kind of screwed a bunch of people there. But my guy is Alec Ingold, and Alec truly helped no one this past Sunday, unless obviously you're Mike McDaniels, and you started him in fantasy football, which we believe a few coaches do now. Because what other reason would you want Ingold to score? But Alec Ingold is my back-to-back fullback Thano for this week.
Handoff. Yeah! Alec Ingold. You do all the dirty work. You get the football for the touchdown.
You get rewarded for that. I do need a better touchdown celebration, but my man is absolutely exhausted.
He didn't care. He's like, here's the ball. He's been there before.
And I don't think you do the dirty work and get the touchdown. That never happens. So yeah.
He's like, what did he say at the end there? Like, my man, I need to work on the touchdown celebration, but my man is exhausted. You can just see him kind of like, here's the ball. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Beauty. This is an interesting one. So this guy, he's got a brother in the NFL who is also very good. He actually plays for the Steelers as well. I had to look because I was pretty sure the ticker said Cam Hayward. Turns out there's 2 Haywards as a fantasy football taker inner. If you have to have someone on the Steelers, odds are you have one of the 8 players before Hayward. You might have lost a bet and picked Michael Pruitt, which is entirely possible. Guaranteed Hayward made you mad, especially if you were in one of the leagues that had Michael Pruitt. I'm talking about Connor Hayward. He definitely helped nobody, and I'm going to show you why.
Second and 11 for Fields. He will throw it. Caught by Hayward to the end zone. Pittsburgh touchdown. Connor Hayward.
Now, I'm pretty sure you get fined if you throw the football in, so for a guy that isn't really supposed to catch touchdowns, it costs them money. So maybe hold back on that. I counted, there's almost 8 guys that should have had that ball first. And
now, I would just like to point out a fun fact about what Ryan just said to everyone. If you had Michael Pruitt.
Oh, no. I didn't even look.
Michael Pruitt. 0% rostered.
As
I was reading that, I was like, Michael Pruitt has been a Thano multiple times. There is no way anyone has ever rostered him in the last 4 calendar years. I don't know. And I was like, I got to look this up, all this stuff.
Man, I was pissed. He took my red zones points away from Michael Pruitt.
Yeah.
Just ruined my week.
Yeah. That's what I'm
I
saying.
mean, I start Michael Pruitt and I'm looking for points week to week, and I can't believe that.
That's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm getting at. So anyway,
Stupid Hayward.
Thought you guys would enjoy that. Thought you would enjoy that. Let's get into sneaky starts. Sneaky starts. Ted, you're on a roll. Go for it.
Oh. My sneaky start this week is Daniel Jones. Yes, of the New York Football Giants. Jones looks solid during his doing his dual threat thing versus a pretty stout Seattle defense last week. And then the important part is that he did it all without Malik Neighbors. He threw for 257 yards and 2 TDs, while rushing for another 38. So look for a confident version of Jones to carry over in a great matchup versus the Bengals. The matchup is key here. Throw in the fact that it's a bye week, and here's your bye week quarterback starter. Similar to Joe Flacco, although don't look for those point totals. You're probably looking at around 20, 22 points. But I'd bank on that if you're looking for somebody to slot in for a streaming quarterback this week.
Daniel Jones. What a world we live in currently.
It's wild times, brave new world.
Wow. I made remember the whole thing in our preview about Malik Neighbors. I'm like, no, Daniel Jones sucks. I'm sorry. And you're telling people to start him this week.
I'm telling people to start him, and he did that all without Neighbors last week. So
that's true.
He looks better on that knee. I don't know if it's just like he's starting to roll a little bit, and maybe that was his coming out party. Probably not. But like I said, streaming wise, he should be fine with a good start.
It's exciting. Matt, who's your sneaky start this week?
I don't mean to bastardize the sneaky start with a first overall pick, but I don't think too many are starting Caleb Williams.
Is this like Najee territory?
No, this is not Najee territory.
Come on. I feel like it might be.
Yeah, I mean,
for your inaugural sneaky start, it was a 2, I think.
Fair enough. He's in a division where every team is good except for them. They are playing the Jags, who have a more or less porous defense. He did actually look pretty good this past week. He's starting to use his legs a little bit, which everyone was hoping for. I think he's building a little bit of chemistry with a few of his receivers, especially DJ Moore. Definitely not Keenan Allen, which is great for my fantasy team. But yeah, again, it's a streamer week, and you need a dude that might get you that kind of 20-ish points. Some of it on his legs against a really bad team. I'd consider keeping him for a week.
Interesting. I'm going to go because I'm sure Steve's going to have something to say about this after I stop talking. So
100% I will.
There's this, man, that's why we do this. I got to feed you. I got to feed the beast, right? Ray McLeod. So Steve already talked about him. And yes, I came up with this on my own. So shut up. 10% owned, 5% started. I don't know what the Falcons offense is this season. We were promised more this season with Raheem Morris after Arthur Smith, not blank because I still get them confused, was canned because he couldn't start the Ferrari. So Steve loves the snap share. It's in the high 90s. He loves the targets. He's averaging 5 to 7 per game. And aside from the Kansas City game, he's over 40 yards a game. Falcons have Carolina. This might be a better fit than when I said start Deontay. So folks, he's got 2 first names, and they're the same. Ray McLeod. I'm telling you to start him this week. I think you're going to be happy. Steve, I'm an open target. Go for it.
Well, Ryan's kind of stupid because if you're going to start one guy on the Falcons, you want to do my sneaky start, and that's Darnell Mooney. Now,
whatever. Okay.
He's only started in 34% of leagues, so less than or right at basically 1/3 of the leagues. Here's a guy who had 16 targets last playing a bad Buccaneers defense. I get it. They're playing Carolina, so not much better. His snap share is off the charts. 95%, 100%, 93, 96, 98, and he's only being started. So you know what I say about wide receivers? It's all about opportunity. He's on the field all the time. He's going to get targets. People aren't starting him. So
which is ridiculous because he's got, like, I'm going to call you on the sneakiness, but I see where you're coming from. He had an almost 15-point week in week 2. Last week, he had 22.5 points. He's got 3 touchdowns on this season already, like a decent amount of targets. I get where you're coming from, but I don't know. Like, I don't like Mooney. I think that it just bugs me that he's getting more of the opportunity on that offense. But yeah, I mean, I guess if people aren't starting him, wise up, folks, because apparently he's one of the go-tos in that offense. So,
I mean,
maybe
if Caleb Williams was a sneaky start at 27% started, then I would say
you're in the territory. You're in the territory. That's
this
fair.
kind of fits.
That's fair. That's fair.
What are the odds that Daniel Jones, and I'm not, I'll look it up while we're talking, but what are the odds that Daniel Jones has actually started in more leagues than that?
I'll look it up.
I'm trying to get
7%. Never mind.
That constitutes a sneaky start.
I want to be wrong on this one. Like I said, my one team in whistleblowing is absolutely abysmal. I'm starting Ray McLeod I don't have any better options. So I hope Ryan
say it. Say the words.
One gem and gets it right.
Say my name.
Well done.
Yeah, I know. I try. Matt, I guess we should probably tell you what we're getting to. Final segment, sleepy ads. This is every now and then turns into like an optional sneaky start. But Matt, who is your sleepy ad this week? Who is looking good over the next couple weeks?
Okay, so to make up for my 27% start Caleb Williams in the Sleepy League, I've actually done my sleepy ad of Jeremy McNichols, my same Thanos star. The Commanders are averaging, I think I read 95 points per game. And there is a ton of scoring opportunity, especially this week against Baltimore. That could be one of those like all-time shootouts I'm hoping for, because that would be really fun to watch.
Many men could get the ball that game.
Many men. But I mean, it's back-to-back weeks now that he's had pretty good numbers, and he's clearly a touchdown threat. Austin Eckler kind of always gets that, 3 or 4 games, and they start to forget about him a little bit. And he's a dude that's just going to continue to get opportunities. So if you've got a deep bench in a deep league, I would I'd maybe consider throwing him on the very last roster spot you have and give him a thought.
Flex out, pick up somebody on the IR, flex that out, and add a bench spot.
Yeah, triple flex.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. So I've got Eckler in one league. Maybe you're onto something. Like, is this the kind of thing where like they're going to lull you to sleep for a few weeks and then they're going to spring back and put Eckler in the offense and like run it up and have him kind of as a backup option?
Yeah, I don't know. Eckler just seems to be one of those dudes that just like kind of gets forgotten about for a few weeks and doesn't get utilized in the best. It reminds me a little bit of like Darren Sproles back in the day, like a dude that on most teams could probably be getting 20 touches a game, but it wasn't uncommon to see him return 2 kicks and get 3 carries.
Right.
And sometimes it feels like Eckler kind of gets that same treatment in that number 2.
Yeah.
Again, when you're scoring whatever it is, probably 30 plus points a game, there's opportunities to pop that 1-yard touchdown in.
I think it's
there's. Oh, go ahead, Ted.
I was going to say, I think it's like a bit of a pitch count thing with a guy like Eckler too, right? I mean, that's the guy that you probably want playing for your team later in the season. You don't want to break a guy down like that. It's the second time that McNichols has ended up on the team and been the heir apparent to a spot as well, right? He was there for Henry in Tennessee, and he's taking up the same role here. So I think that's the thing. If you can just try to hedge your bet with a backup that you think is going to get you some points, either in the interim that you can use as a flex, or it could really just take over the role down the road. That's the whole idea of filling up your spot with these sneaky ads, right?
I also think there's like this, it's kind of weird. I almost see an identical situation in Washington as, when Lamar came to Baltimore. You've got this dynamic runner. You've got this elusive guy who is just exploding onto the scene. Like, Jaden Daniels could be in the conversation for MVP right now. Like the Commanders were absolutely nothing. And now they're like, I don't know what their record is, but clearly they're beating good teams. I wonder if he's a little forgotten about because they're like, look, we've got this like young, fresh leg guy who's essentially the face of our franchise overnight. let's let him run with it until defenses can learn how to stop it. And we've got this guy in our back pocket who we know is productive. And like Ted said, let's not utilize his legs right now. Let's let him get acclimated. Let's let him, save some of that freshness for down the stretch.
Washington's 4-1, and I think Jaden Daniels is already in the MVP conversation.
He should be. Like he's going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year 100%. And like that kind of sucks for a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr. because he's also like coming alive. But quarterback's the most important position, and he's playing it at a really, really high level.
Ted.
I think this was named earlier in the season, but I think like now is the time to do this. So I'm going to name Blake Corum. It's audition time in Michigan, and the rookie heading into the bye week. And Ronnie Rivers, who served as Kyron Williams' backup the first few weeks, has been relegated to mostly special teams by now, and especially in last game. Corum looked really capable during the 5 touches he had. He's obviously very talented. Make no mistake, Kyron is still the lead back, but durability is always going to be a concern. And Corum is probably the lottery ticket that you want to hang on to if he's still available in your league. I think key point here is that he's only owned in like 22% of leagues. And this is a guy that you want to hang on to if Williams gets hurt. This is a guy that could just take over if Williams gets hurt on an offense that is just scary, dangerous, even when it doesn't have all its weapons.
He could be Kyron Williams to Kyron Williams.
He could be Kyron Williams 2024, 2025, right? So if that was the guy we're going after last year, I think all he's done is proven that he can do the job, but he's also injury prone. And if you watched any Michigan football last year, this is a very dangerous player that you probably want to have on your squad.
So who's Cam Akers on this team then?
Yeah, I don't know. It's probably yeah, I don't know. It's probably Ronnie Rivers. How about that?
Man, freaking Cam Akers. I don't want to get into that. I'm gonna go. Yeah. All aboard. Talking about Eric All. The Bengals are close to being eliminated from playoff contention. And just like garbage yards exist, garbage games do too. 7% owned, 3% started, which in Sleeper, I want to meet the 3% that's starting this guy, Eric All. I mean, it's a deep dive every week after week 2 on the show. His snap share isn't otherworldly, but get this, he hasn't dropped a target this season. 14 targets, 14 catches for 92 yards. He is not their primary option in the offense, but the Giants and the Browns are coming up, so you might see his stock rise in Cincinnati. And I feel crazy for saying this, but this is one of those opportunities where now it's audition time, and this might be a name that by week 8 or week 9. So Eric All, which again, didn't know about him. You probably, the 3% of fantasy footballers in sleeper leagues knew about him. But again, I would like to meet these people because this seems like a fun group. So I just seriously, 7% owned. And of that 7%, it's one guy. So it's interesting.
There must be some leagues out there where they do some weird things. Like my idea of if you are, the loser of the year before, you have to start an offensive lineman at least 3 times in a season. Because it just doesn't make sense. Who's starting Eric All?
Yeah,
is there somebody out there that is just throwing in the towel already? Or is there somebody out there so arrogant that they're I'm going to beat you with Eric All on my team?
Well, you and I, Steve, we're playing in that fantasy football league where you can only select AFC North players, and there's 12 teams.
Yeah. I think you would need probably a 16-team league before you're picking up Eric All.
There are
parameters.
Yeah. There are also those people that will just pick I've seen a few of them pop up in the last couple of weeks of people that just take the one team.
That's so fun.
They do a whole roster of whatever Detroit Lions or something like that, right? So you got to know there's at least a few of those people around. There's also probably a few like we had last year in Sleeper, where it was or not Sleeper, Family Feud, where you've got 6 bench players plus 16. So chances are somebody in that league owns him, whether you're starting or not. But he's still sitting on your bench, possibly.
But I mean, it's just the starting part I love. There's a few people that want to watch the world burn, and I love it.
Yeah, it's Eric All's cousin that's starting him. Because Eric told him that he might get the ball this week.
bro. Yeah, you're gonna want to see this game. I haven't dropped a target, man. They're calling me up. I'm getting the promotion. Getting the promotion. Joe Burrow's gonna pass me the ball. I don't think so. Steve, who do you got, buddy?
What about a league where, I don't know, let's say there's 8 guys or whatever, and you randomly picked 4 teams. So you had to draw, or you drafted teams, and each week you could only start players from one specific team, but no one could ever steal your team. So let's say you had the Ravens, the Browns, the Chargers, and
I like this. Right? We need to implement this next.
And you're
like an NFL meat draw team.
Yeah, so it's like if I have those 4 teams, I can't start people from all over. I can only start Vikings players this week, or I can only start players from this. That'd be a fun league. Then you get
at the Legion or something.
It sounds like it's like fantasy football card break. It's great.
Yeah.
I got to recall.
Yeah. Like while I lost this week. Yeah. You just pick it. No, you just pick a different team. You have like a backup team for bye week.
Imagine not making the right starts either.
Yeah. Like I said, you had 8 options, and Connor Hayward was one of them. So I should have started Michael Pruitt this week. Like he didn't even get the ball. Doesn't matter. Doesn't even matter.
One fantasy related question, Steve, before you list your sleepy ad for the week. Like, what are Andrew's owners doing with him for the remainder of the year in the next couple weeks?
I mean, in my work league, somebody dropped him, and my idea is he's a Pro Bowl caliber player, so I just picked him up. He's just sitting on my bench. I think in that league I have Dallas Goedert, maybe Cole Kmet. So he's just kind of sitting on my bench. I'm not starting him until I see, his usage. I mean, last game they had Charlie Kolar taking a bunch of snaps. So it's just, I don't know what they're doing with him yet. But I'm willing to take the risk on a guy like that because there's so much talent. But I don't think teams that are going for it right now are necessarily in a spot to be holding on to him. Possibly if your team is like that stacked, like maybe you've sold off previous year's draft picks and you kind of loaded up on draft picks and you've got a good enough team to hold on to him. Great. I don't know what he is right now though. And it's really confusing when you have an all pro tight end who is being, underutilized essentially.
I mean, you think of what that offense, and sorry, we'll let you get your thing in a second. You think of what that offense looks like right now. Like, what does that look like if they got Mark Andrews involved in that offense, like properly? Like they're insane already, and you now have a guy like can clearly make plays, like, or maybe they just have a season long plan for their whole offense, and they get them going, mid season and then ready for playoffs. I don't know. I mean, that sounds stupid, but.
Maybe this is what Ted was talking about with like an Eckler kind of thing. You've got a guy who's coming off like a pretty nasty ankle injury, and they're just snap counting him right now and trying to preserve him long term. Like his snap, I just looked up his snap share: 74, 63, 33, 46, 55. So like they're not really even getting him on the field as much as they should, which tells me either like it can't tell me that they've gone past him because he's still like an all pro caliber guy. But when you have Charlie Kolar, who's 27%, 33%, 41%, that's too much for a guy like that. But who knows? Maybe they have essentially passed him in his usage. That seems weird to say, but yeah, I don't know.
And you got Likely too. Like that's a dude that can make that spectacular toe tap athletic play that you need 3 solid tight ends.
Yeah who knows, maybe that's like, I hate to say it, but maybe he becomes expendable or one of them becomes expendable. I know they did that how many years ago was that when they got rid of Hayden Hurst, former first round pick. They ended up getting a second round pick for him, which they later picked J.K. Dobbins with. So it wouldn't be shocking for them to let go of a player of such high caliber because they've done it before when they can get the value for it. So yeah, maybe.
Who's your ad?
Okay, so I've been really terrible with ads this year. Maybe this is making up for my questionable sneaky start, but I'm going with Xavier Hutchinson of the Houston Texans. So he is largely unknown. Was getting under 20% snap share in his first 4 games, and then he skyrocketed to 71%.
Oh,
yeah, that's always going to pique my interest. So why? Obviously, Nico Collins goes down, gets hurt. We know Tank Dell has kind of like a little history in his young career of, not being able to stay on the field, getting nicked up. Obviously, they turned to Xavier Hutchinson. He, had 3 looks go his way, which isn't bad for a guy who's, largely unknown. There's talks that if Collins is unable to go, the Texans could go to Bobby Trees, Robert Woods, or they could go with Xavier Hutchinson. They could do a timeshare kind of thing. But like you said, if you're in one of those deeper leagues where you have a roster spot, that's kind of been my go-to this year is let's pick up lotto tickets and see what sticks. 24-year-old kid, 6'3", 210 pounds, who just out of nowhere got 71% snap share of being on the field. That tells me that a coach trusts what he sees or likes what he sees. This is a mega deep ad. Like, there's very few roster capabilities for a guy who's 0% rostered, 0% started. Adam, who knows? Maybe next week he'll be my Thano. Wouldn't that be the call of the season?
You know what? And we won't do awards if that happens.
You'll just give it to me next
week.
We'll
just give you an honorary award and we'll just play for second place. I think that's fair.
The most second advisors.
Yeah. Hey, we can make whatever awards we want on this.
We'll call it.
Yeah.
This the Sean Avery Award.
I was going to say, where are we going?
Or the Dion Phaneuf Award. We haven't decided.
That's true. That's true. In any league.
Yeah. Looking here, Steve, Xavier Hutchinson is like one of the most added players out there. So that's good. He's trending up. Yeah. He's 130,000 ads in the last.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Since you said that or today?
3 minutes ago.
Yeah. Since 3 minutes ago.
Or one
I don't know. Yeah. My stats on my screen are very different. Yeah.
He's just slightly under Spencer Rattler.
See that I don't agree with that. I don't agree with Spencer Rattler, who clearly is a wide receiver. Yes.
But good ad, Steve. The snapshot thing is the big thing, right? Like, yeah.
What? No, he's a quarterback. Sorry, Spencer Rattler.
Spencer Rattler's the biggest D-bag ever.
I thought he was a wide receiver, but
I think everybody's the second biggest D-bag ever.
Well, yeah. I don't know. I feel like there's like really terrible human beings, and then there's D-bags. Like,
oh, okay. Yeah, okay. I got you.
Deshaun Watson's on a whole new level of himself.
Yeah.
Stratosphere, if you will. Yeah. Boys, this has been awesome. We named some names. We snuck in some starts, had some sleepy ads. Thanos were always great. And we got into some legal chat, which is what most people always come to a fantasy football show for. We will definitely be here next week to talk about week 6 that was, and previewing week 7, which feels weird to say. Like, we wait months and we're already into week 6. I mean, I guess that's awesome. So make sure you guys check out the sneaky starts, sleepy ads. I think we got some good ones this week. I got a good feeling about what Steve's talking about. I think that Houston offense is still, I think there's a lot. I mean, I'm still sticking by that CJ Stroud's going to tear it up to mid-season here and maybe pull back into the MVP chat I said he was going to be in this season, which may or may not happen now. But I do like that Houston offense. So that's something you guys should pay attention to. We'll be back next week. Same bad time, same bad channel. Any final words? Anybody have any special things to say? Matt's just eating his beard. Ted's not. And Steve's not either. On behalf of Teddy and Steve. We got Beard Chewer Matt. I'm Ryan. This is That Helps No One FantasyCast on the Area 51 Network. Thank you so much for checking us out this week. Good luck in Week 6 of fantasy football. Hopefully, if you got Tyreek, maybe you get back in the win column this week. Unlikely, but I can say nice things occasionally. On behalf of that, peace out, everybody.